Before the first note was ever sung, before the lights of America's Got Talent ever touched him, a young Filipino boy stood alone in a quiet room holding a folded flag that once rested on his father's coffin. This is not just a performance. This is a son's final promise to a fallen soldier, a promise carried across oceans to the biggest stage in America. If you believe music can heal, if you believe courage can live inside a child, then stay with this story, subscribe to the channel, and witness a moment that left Simon Cowell and millions of Americans in tears. His name was Miguel Santos, and he was only 13 years old when he stepped onto the AGT stage, but his eyes carried the weight of a lifetime. Born in a small coastal town in the Philippines, Miguel grew up listening to the sound of waves crashing against the shore and the gentle hum of his father's voice singing old love songs late at night. His father, Captain Daniel Santos, was a Filipino-American soldier who served in the U.S. Army. To Miguel, his father was not a hero in uniform. He was simply Tate, the man who taught him how to ride a bike, how to tie his shoes, and how to sing when fear tried to steal your voice. Daniel Santos believed in music with the same devotion he believed in service. Whenever he was home on leave, he would sit on the edge of Miguel's bed and tell him stories about faraway places, about deserts and mountains and brothers in arms who depended on each other to survive. But after the stories, there was always a song. Daniel said music was how you remember who you were when the world tries to change you. Miguel never forgot those words. When Miguel was 9 years old, his father was deployed overseas for the final time. Before leaving, Daniel gave Miguel a small, battered notebook filled with handwritten lyrics. On the first page, he had written, "Sing even when I'm not there. Sing so I can hear you wherever I am." Miguel didn't know that would be the last gift his father would ever give him. 6 months later, a knock came at their door that shattered everything. Two uniformed officers stood in silence, their faces heavy with words no family ever wants to hear. Captain Daniel Santos had been killed in action while protecting his unit. Miguel remembers the sound his mother made when she collapsed to the floor. He remembers the way the house felt suddenly empty, like all the air had been sucked out of it. And he remembers holding that notebook so tightly his fingers hurt, afraid that if he let go, he would lose his father forever. The funeral was held with full military honors. The folded American flag was placed in his mother's hands, but later that night, Miguel asked to hold it. He pressed it to his chest and whispered a promise through tears. He promised his father he would keep singing. He promised he would be brave. And even though he didn't understand how, he promised he would make his father proud. For a long time after that, Miguel couldn't sing at all. Every note reminded him of his father, and the pain was too much. But one night, when the house was quiet and his mother was asleep, Miguel opened the notebook and found a song his father had written just for him. It wasn't perfect. The words were simple. But it spoke about love that doesn't end, about voices that live on even when people are gone. Miguel sang softly at first, barely above a whisper. By the end of the song, he was crying, but he was also breathing again. Music became his refuge. He sang at school events, at church, at small community gatherings. People noticed not just his voice, but the emotion behind it. When he sang, it felt like he was telling a story without ever explaining it. His mother watched him from the back of every room, tears in her eyes, knowing that her husband's spirit lived on in their son. One evening, a video of Miguel singing at a local memorial event was posted online. It showed him standing in front of a photo of fallen soldiers, his hands shaking as he sang a song about sacrifice and love. The video spread quickly, reaching people far beyond their town. Messages poured in from veterans, military families, and strangers who said his voice made them feel seen. That was when someone suggested America's Got Talent. At first, Miguel laughed. He thought it was impossible. He was just a kid from the Philippines with a broken heart and a song. But his mother saw something different. She saw a chance for Miguel to turn his pain into purpose. She reminded him of his promise. "Sing even when I'm not there." The audition process was long and overwhelming. Flying to America felt like stepping into another world. Miguel had never seen buildings so tall or stages so bright. On the day of the audition, he stood backstage clutching his father's notebook, his heart pounding so hard he thought everyone could hear it. When a producer asked him if he was nervous, Miguel nodded and said, "I'm singing for my dad." The producer's eyes softened, and she whispered, "America needs to hear this." When Miguel walked onto the AGT stage, the lights were blinding. The audience applauded politely, not knowing what was coming. Simon Cowell leaned forward, curious but guarded. Howie Mandel smiled encouragingly. Sofia Vergara beamed with warmth. Heidi Klum tilted her head, already sensing something special. Simon asked Miguel his name and age. Then he asked why he chose to audition. Miguel took a deep breath. His voice trembled as he spoke about his father, about the promise, about the notebook. The theater fell silent. Even Simon's expression changed. "What are you going to sing for us today?" Simon asked. Miguel swallowed hard and said, "This song is for my father. He was a soldier, and he never came home." When the music began, it was soft, almost fragile. Miguel's voice entered gently, like a memory. But as the song continued, his voice grew stronger, filled with longing and love and something that felt like hope. The lyrics spoke of a boy looking up at the sky, believing his father was listening. People in the audience began to cry. Some held their hands over their mouths. Veterans wiped tears from their eyes. Halfway through the song, Miguel reached into his pocket and pulled out the folded flag. He held it against his heart and sang the final chorus with everything he had. His voice cracked, but he didn't stop. He sang through the pain, through the tears, through the silence of a father who could no longer answer back. When the final note faded, there was a moment where no one moved. Then the entire theater erupted into applause. The audience stood. Howie Mandel was openly crying. Sofia Vergara wiped her eyes. Heidi Klum pressed her hands to her chest. And Simon Cowell, the man known for his tough critiques, sat frozen, his eyes glassy. Simon stood up slowly and said, "Miguel, I've heard thousands of singers on this stage. But what you did today wasn't just singing. That was truth. That was love. And that was bravery." He paused, his voice thick. "Your father would be incredibly proud of you." Then, without another word, Simon reached forward and slammed the golden buzzer. Golden confetti rained down as Miguel collapsed to his knees in shock. He covered his face, overwhelmed. The audience roared. His mother ran onto the stage and held him as they cried together beneath the falling gold. Simon walked over and knelt beside Miguel, placing a hand on his shoulder and quietly saying, "This is just the beginning." Backstage, Miguel said he felt like his father was standing right beside him. For the first time since the funeral, he didn't feel alone. He felt heard. As the competition continued, Miguel faced new challenges. The pressure was immense. Critics questioned whether his story overshadowed his talent. Online comments were divided. Some said he was only there because of sympathy. Those words cut deep. For a moment, Miguel considered quitting. But then he opened the notebook again and remembered why he started. In the semi-finals, Miguel chose a risky song, one his father used to sing when he was scared. It was raw and stripped down, with no big production. Just a boy and a microphone. When he sang, it was as if the entire journey led to that moment. The judges were silent again, the audience transfixed. Though Miguel did not ultimately win the season, something greater happened. His performances went viral. Military families reached out, thanking him for giving their grief a voice. Veterans wrote letters saying his song helped them heal. Schools invited him to sing. Foundations offered scholarships. Miguel returned home not as a winner of a trophy, but as a messenger of hope. He placed the golden buzzer jacket next to his father's folded flag and whispered, "I did it, Tate." Today, Miguel continues to sing, not just for his father, but for anyone who has lost someone they love. His voice carries a reminder that love does not end with loss, and that even the smallest voice can echo across the world.